The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It is yet another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, this is the very first edition of The Big Issue in the year 2022. It's another new year. And of course, as Nigerians, we are looking forward with optimism to what the year brings. And of course, without taking much of your time, we'll go into the big issue of the day, which is Presidency Senate roll over padding of the 2022 budget. I am your regular host. George Jagba is my name. And of course, with me here in the studio are our in-house analysts, Silas Ezebu.
Welcome, Happy New Year.
And Sunday Isua.
Thank you.
A very powerful legislative analyst. Well, President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday signed the 2022 Appropriation Bill and the 2021 Finance Bill into law. But in doing so, the president expressed reservation over what he described as the worrisome changes made by the National Assembly to the federal government's budget. He argued that the cuts in the provisions for several of these projects by the National Assembly might render the project unimplementable or set back their completion, especially some of the administrative strategic capital projects in the appropriation bill. The president declared that he would revert to the National Assembly with a request for amendment after Parliament's resumption, so that the critical ongoing projects critical to his regime will not suffer a setback. Well, but members of the National Assembly insisted on the amendments made to the 2022 Appropriation Bill, saying the reduction of allocation to 10,733 projects and insertion of 6,576 new ones were in order. The lawmaker stated that by the power of appropriation conferred on the National Assembly by the Constitution, the Parliament has the right to tinker with the federal government's budget like any other bill. And of course, the lawmakers say it goes a long way to show that the 9th National Assembly is not a rubber stamp of the executive, as been speculated in certain quarters. Well, but Nigerians is what are saying it is self-indictment on the part of President Muhammadu Buhari, who have signed the budget, knowing full well that the lawmakers padded the budget and inserted some of their own projects into it. Why didn't they send the budget back to the lawmakers the way he sent the electoral act?
That's exactly what President Muhammadu Buhari, that's the question President Muhammadu Buhari should be answering. Because in not distant time, he sent back the electoral bill, raising certain issues, and now he signed the budget, raising the same issues. It is very clear that people who are handling President Muhammadu Buhari have made up their mind to think that Nigerians are illiterate, or the National Assembly they are operating with is truly a rubber stamp. Because the Constitution is very clear. This is a bill. It's not an executive, legislative, ordinary communication. It's a bill that must be passed into law. The presidency cannot just sit down on their own and prepare a document and allow Nigeria to start using. By the virtue of Section 81 of the 1999 Constitution, which allows President Muhammadu Buhari to lay, not to allow them to see, to lay it for them to work on it. And the same Constitution gives the National Assembly the power under Section 59 for them to work on it, to change things. And before even the budget, the president will have to send an MTEF. That MTEF will determine the budget for that fiscal year, medium-term expenditure. So the National Assembly, within their powers, still have the powers to work on that MTEF. And it was the same thing that happened. Since some people are arguing that the National Assembly don't have powers to bring in their own personal constituency project into a budget the presidency did not prepare. But the National Assembly have the power to work on the MTEC. That is, during preparation of the MTEC, they have the power to work on it. And the National Assembly, the presidency brought in the MTEC. The National Assembly raised that MTEC. The presidency brought the amount in which the Nigerian oil will be sold. The National Assembly raised that amount. The presidency did not raise an alarm. And they did that based on the powers of the constitution given them. And this is during the preparation of the budget. And they have the power, to insert whatever they will insert, in as much as they have already worked on that MTEC and work on the document. So the President Muhammadu Buhari's presidency is just a laughing stock, because this issue have been coming up several times. I think they should look inward and see where the National Assembly went wrong and work on it. They thought the National Assembly is a rubber stamp. Well, I don't know their relationship, but Nigerians are angry about National Assembly. They're also angry about Buhari's comment, because it looks as if he has kept some boys in the 3-arm zone, and if he just send a document, they will not even go through it and read it. They will just pass it and send it back to him. I think it's uncalled for.
Well, Silas, what you hear what this was. See, for a National Assembly that said it to approve anything Buhari brings.
Yes.
If Buhari had removed whatever he felt they inserted in the budget, if he had removed it and then sent it back to them the way he did the electoral, the Act Amendment P, I think those lawmakers would have still gone ahead to sign it. But the president went ahead, signed the bill, and then started crying over spilled milk. Then Nigerians say this is enough to doubt the sincerity of the president himself.
Yeah, you cannot blame Nigerians too much if they begin to, like so I said, when we think Nigerians are illiterate, you cannot read between the lines. When the government came in, we were looking at body language for more than 1 year or 2 years. Now everything is clear to everybody. If the president had meant well to leave the legacy of the good elections in Nigeria, he would have done the same thing he did now. Sign that bill and then raise query over certain provisions which he felt was not comfortable with, and give reasons. Since he has the National Assembly in his pocket, well, that's what that one says. Same president, that whatever the president got, they want to agree with him so that the country will move smoothly. They want to actualize him anyway. But maybe he forgot that the job that why have the 3 arms, the 3 different that they have checks. They have special powers. They also have checks and balances, and those checks and balances that will bring in probity, accountability, and robust engagement governance. But so actually, the issue of padding of project has been a long one. And I think it's because those involved are not really starting to understand their role. If the government, executive feels that whatever they push forward to the system should just be acceptable system, then it's mistaken. Because this will have the power to appropriate. They have the power to do that. And the concern, I don't know whether they're reading from the same law book, or whether the chief presidents and law handlers are also knowledgeable enough, or whether they're telling them from their own perspective. But if the law is there, it's to look at the constitutional provision and say who has the power to do what, and who doesn't have to do what. And if, as Sonia has already mentioned, the law gives them the power to do that. It's a bill. It's not a law. It's locals that work on it and turn it to a law. Send to the president to sign the law. So as long as it is a work in progress, the documenters have a right, to me, in my own little understanding, to tinker with it. Because they live among the people. They live among the people. They know the roads that are allocated. The money allocated for different budget lines. They know it. If the executive has maybe over-budgeted for it, these people they intend them with their constituency areas. They know what to place there. They know that if there's a road that going this way and the presidency provides for it, and possibly that road will not make sense if you don't put another road that will link it to another maybe source of commerce or farm. The local guys will go, if you put this road you are building here will not make much sense because it needs to connect to this other one so that it will make maximum impact. That's the kind of thing because they represent small cells, federal constituency, state constituency. They present for everybody. These guys are the ones that are closest to people because they represent everybody, all of us in the National Assembly. So they know what, and they are also competent. They also have different competencies. Some of them are former governors, some of them are sons, some of them are doctors, some of them are engineers, some of them have been involved in farm sector. So if they are not people from nowhere, they are people who are also experienced in this job. And they will look at it and say, okay, the president will propose this one, whoever proposed for the president, whoever compiled those things for the president, they too have the competence to look at it and know whether those things are applicable. I know the budget comes after some time. By the time they consider it, a lot of things in the market could have changed. And they have the information. So what I think the place should do is to, okay, they can have an in-house discussion on whatever is missed and come to an agreement on how to proceed. But to just start complaining about it, I don't think it makes sense.
Well, before we look at the critical aspect of whether the National Assembly has such constitutional powers to tinker with the appropriation bill, let's just quickly take a short break. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the Presidency Senate role over padding of 2022 budget. Well, don't forget that the big issue is a very apt way of dissecting issues that borders on governance in the country. And of course, the discussions on big issue are very instructive. You speak truth to power, you analyze the issues as they are and let them understand that this is what is supposed to be done. And of course, on the big issue, we always have very, very powerful analysts. And we have award-winning journalists, like Sundays who are here, who won the Outstanding Journalist of the Year award recently. Is it the Sukapu Outstanding Journalist of the Year? Congrats for that feat, Isua. Well, as we're talking, Isua, now what becomes, let's look at, first of all, the question most Nigerians are asking is the appropriation bill from the executive cast in the stone like the Ten Commandments, that the National Assembly cannot tinker with it by adding or removing anything from it. Then most of the questions Nigerians are asking is that what now becomes the role of the National Assembly in a democracy when it comes to budgeting or appropriation?
You see, I've already stated earlier, Section 81, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution allowed the President to lay the budget to the members of the National Assembly. Then the same Constitution in Section 59 of the 1999 Constitution also empowers the lawmakers to appropriate, that is to say, to remove here, fix here, make sure that everything work in tandem with the yearnings of Nigerians. Now, if the drafters of the Constitution did not have the legislative right in mind, they would have just allowed the President to just prepare a document and it becomes law.
And just show them for showing sake.
For showing sake. But the drafter of the constitution envisaged all these things. And you know, in our previous show, you made mention how the presidency laid a budget with over 220 something on seen projects that were padded into the document. Yes, the presidency is not talking about that one.
The one that was done
Yes.
by the MDAs
And all that.
the ministry.
And maybe that is why the presidency is still insisting that the National Assembly did wrong. Maybe the National Assembly went through that document and removed those projects and add it to their constituency projects, or the projects they feel that it is important for Nigerians, and the presidency is now raising an issue. I think the National Assembly have done the right thing. They have the powers based on the constitution to do that, and they have done what is right. The presidency should just go back and strategize. I don't know why Buhari's administration will want to leave a legacy of always blaming. Any other person is not doing well. It's only them. They will always blame this, blame former that, and all that, and things keep going wrong. And that is why this government is not doing well as expected by Nigerians, because they keep blaming. It's like they don't even know. If you look at the kind of people Buhari have assembled to work with him, then you have seen why, or you have seen the reason why Nigeria is still struggling. Because they will keep blaming until they leave in 2023.
Well, thank you, Shua. You see, just like what you just said, but some Nigerians don't see it like that. Some Nigerians, like the chairman of Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, Professor Iseshagi, is the senior advocate of Nigeria, said while the legislative arm of government had the right to adjust figures and make amendments to the budget, the National Assembly lacks the power to introduce new projects. And that has raised the question from different parties. What is now the oversight function of the parliament if people like Iseshagi are claiming that the National Assembly has no power to tinker with the budget in the course of legislation? Silence.
I know the Sage is a very senior lawyer in Nigeria, and what he says matters. What is always correct. I've had occasions in the past when I say his reasoning, I said I don't agree with you. I also remember that he's also holding a position the government has given him. You understand? The president has appointed him to a particular position, and what human beings, they can affect his, it can actually affect his judgment of things, especially when the presidency is involved. The presidential aide, the chairman of PACAC, the president appointed to that job. So, if we're talking about something that did not concern the presidency, I will understand. But if it comes to something that concerns the presidency and they take sides that way, it's really can look at it, okay, possibly his views are affected by his position. Okay, so that puts him already in a corner where objectivity and impartiality is questioned. Okay, but so we're talking about a Supreme Court judgment of studio about a ruling by the Supreme Court, which seems to have guaranteed that lawmakers can add and remove as part of the oversight function. So maybe Tony should talk about that one.
Well, thank you, Silas. You see, naturally, the National Assembly members are representative of their constituents who are Nigeria. And of course, this entails that they know what are the immediate needs of the people in terms of social amenities. That is what you rightly see. And it is assumed that the executive cannot sit in Abuja and know the needs of the people in the rural communities. So that is why most Nigerians are demanding to know what is wrong with the idea that in the course of legislation, the National Assembly will want to insert certain projects that they know will be beneficial to the people they feel they represent. Because why I'm asking this is that the President Muhammadu Buhari said that he was going to revert by requesting for certain amendments after the parliament's resumption, so that critical ongoing projects in his administration will not be hampered. What the president meant is that By the time the National Assembly resumes, he will revert by sending a request for critical amendment of that same budget, so that you can now see that it is not over until it's over. So now, that kind of request by the president, let's look at it. Is it really constitutional?
Well, it depends on how the president, or it depends on the angle the president is coming. Now, if you read the president's statement very well, he said that he don't want some projects to suffer. So even in a normal budget cycle, the president have the right to send supplementary budget to the National Assembly, stating that this is what they want to use the money for. You understand? So the president is right on that. But I don't think the president would like to raise a war concerning a budget he has already signed. He has already signed that budget. It shows that the National Assembly have already won. So all he needs to do is to go into those projects that he wants his government to execute, urgently, and request that the National Assembly should give it an expeditious appropriation. And I think the National Assembly will want to do that, because they have already promised that they will always have a harmonious relationship with the executive. And that relationship is what Nigerians have seen them as being a rubber stamp. But if the president is coming from an angle of project execution and the timeline he wants to execute his own project, I think the National Assembly will grant him that. But on the basis of the 2022 Appropriation Bill, the president have already signed the document. The document is a law now.
And that amounts to crying wolf after killing the wolf. Not crying wolf where there's no wolf. After killing the wolf, you now start killing the
No, but there's something the president can do.
Yeah.
He has the finance in his hands. He can decide to prioritize the allocation of money to the projects he has interest in. Especially now that he's in the last lap. Okay. You might want to finish some projects so that when he goes, okay, I did this one, I completed this one. I think that is one of the things that is actually achieving his mind. So we can decide, okay, this other one is to add it. Okay, I will not make money available to them for now. The one that is coming, let us use it to do this one. So that we can make money. So he can also know how to raise the money. See, the report to have the part show that sometimes you don't have capital budget of 4%, 20%. It's always the overheads that are thrown to the head. But the capital ones for that is 20%, 40%. You cannot have the Nigerian, to put in a budget to 8%. And that is where the people benefit, going to capital project, but that's when jobs are created. For those who are not doing government money on one side, it's those job execution, no contract, and so that the communities benefit from. And that's the one that suffers the most when money is not allocated to projects. So president can decide to prioritize the ones he wants to raise money for, and raise the money for the one later on when he has money. He can do that.
Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of The Big Issue. Thank you for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, I would like to thank our in-house analyst for a very, very good job in addressing the big issue of the day. And of course, we are assuring you that this year is going to be packed full in our big issues, because they are going to be coming on issues that border on the polity, very critical ones. And I will actually implore you, our listener, our viewer out there, to contribute to conversations on the big issue by sending in your comments. And as you send them, put them out there before the public so that they know what you think on critical issues that border on the country's polity. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.